Hi, thanks for being with us today. I hope you're having a blessed ramp up towards Advent and Christmas and all the joy of the Christmas season. Today I have with me a man that has really walked through a difficult path but has found it very enriching, and that is caring for an autistic child. With me today is Dan Burns to share his life story a little bit and his boy's path and the things he thinks need to be done to make life better in the autistic community.
Thank you, David, for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here. It's a blessing, and I like your introduction to Advent because we have some things to look forward to. So, talk to me. Ask me.
So, what has been your life path? You all been dealing with autism now for 20 years or so.
Yeah, my life path took a steep turn in 1987 when my third child, Benjamin, was born. And at that time, doctors knew very little about autism, and most of what they thought they knew was only half right. What they knew is that it's a lifelong condition, it's new, and there is no medical treatment, standard of care for autism. Now, later on, we can talk about what's changed in the past 30 years on those, but that's where we started. So Ben's pediatric neurologist gave us the one sentence I will have remembered for 30 years. We asked about speech therapy, and she said, "My advice to you is to save your money, take him home, love him, and prepare for his institutionalization when he ages out of school." Now, that was bang, with that sentence, it was like that kind of sentence. You're sentenced to a life of this. And at that time, it was unacceptable. I couldn't accept it, neither could Ben's mom. So we went to work. I was working in computer technology, and so I had access to the internet before most people did. Remember the old green screen and the lines of green text that came across? It was that era. I could not believe that doctors can do a heart transplant and they couldn't do anything about my autistic son. Couldn't do anything. I thought, the doctor just isn't keeping up. So soon I went online and we researched the scientific articles. We had access to the medical journals. We looked at the mouse studies. This goes on hour after hour, day after day, until we've got the old folding paper spilling out of the filing cabinets, the desk drawers, the impact printer going like this, and what we're finding is there is no medical treatment for autism. There are a lot of mouse studies, but nothing applicable to human beings at that time, except with one exception I'll discuss later. So all of this time we're caring for Ben and we're exhausted. Now, Sue gets what looked to me like a break. She went back to work because she carried the medical insurance. So I was home alone with an autistic child who climbed the Venetian blinds, tore up everything in sight, ran around the house, and was so fragile, so easily provoked into a fit, that the shadow of the sun crossing the floor would cause him distress. Ben caused me distress. I was writing SOS messages on the mirror. I kicked a hole in the wall. I kicked 2 holes in the wall. The third kick, I hit a 2x4 and broke my toe. Loaded Ben in the car, drove to the edge of Grapevine Lake and the cliff overlooking, and thought, I could just drive in. But I didn't. And so that was the first part of our journey. Relief came when the school bus came. Ben had a one-on-one advocate all day long in the school, who was a loving person and caring and a teacher, a real teacher. She worked with him. So I got some relief. And I spent that relief time being an advocate for Ben. I was writing books and articles, chairing association meetings, and looking for stories of what we in the autism community call recovery, which means that the person with autism loses the autism diagnosis. And how does this happen, and how does this work? And it does happen, maybe not as often as we hoped, and it certainly didn't for Ben. But ask me something.
So, what has given you strength through these years to persevere? Has it been your faith and your belief in a greater purpose in life?
Well, I wish I could say yes from the beginning. What gave me the initial impetus was anger and fear. Now, over time, we came to see our story in a different way. And at that point, you know, when you understand that you're not in control, that when everything that you know of that can be done has been done and things still aren't coming out right, maybe that's when you learn to let go. Maybe that's when you learn to pray and ask for help. So that was a continuous process over a number of years. I'm not good at letting go, and still working on that today.
Super. Well, it is a challenge, and you know, one of the things I talk about a good bit on the show is letting the Holy Spirit in your life and having that peace that comes from knowing that eternity awaits, and this life full of trouble and aggravation really is nothing compared to eternity with God. And you know, keeping your mind on that focus, and because this world is full of troubles, and you all have had a big share of them with your son's troubles and travails.
He's getting better, and that's my hope, that that a greater power sees a bigger picture, and that I'm only seeing, you know, little slices of it at a time. But because at age 22, he did age out of school, and he was back home. So where are we now? I mean, what's the next step? I'd done some research into communities for autistic people. We folks who have kids on the spectrum tend to want to protect them and segregate them and work with them in a small supportive community. And there were communities at that time being formed like that. So I co-founded a ranch in Austin for autistic teens and young adults. We ran that ranch for about 10 months. We had some successes with neurotherapy, as we've discussed, but it was more challenging than anyone expected, and the ranch closed in 2012, and Ben came home again. Now, the point is, our kids come home, and that's not unique to autistic young adults, but the problem with autistic young adults is they keep coming home because they have trouble holding jobs, they have trouble with the social aspect of autism, getting along with people. So the first job is nowhere near the last, if they're lucky enough to get a first job. So Ben came home. Coming home again. Okay, this brings me to the reason that I'm here today, and one of the big points I want to communicate to you and to our viewers. When Ben was born, the autism rate was 1 in 10,000, 1987. Last year, 2018, the rate was approximately 1 in 59.
Which is shocking.
It should be shocking. And that's an increase of about 15% a year. There's on the average, there's no sign that that is letting up. So what we're having is the schools are filling up with autistic teens. Then at age 22, they age out, and then what do? Now, they probably had some vocational training, they've had some, maybe they've learned some skills. What they haven't learned mostly are the social skills that are necessary to maintain a job. And the big piece of adult services is housing. As I say, they come home. So the message that I want to get across to our viewers is that I'm living with autism. If you don't know anybody on the autism spectrum yet, the chances are you will, because your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren will be living with autism in their schools, in their neighborhoods, and in their families, and quite possibly in your family. How do you prepare for this?
What do we do as a society to prepare for dealing with people with emotional issues and mental issues that need extra support? I mean, we've done a bad job of supporting those in need. I mean, we have people with severe mental illness out on the street because there's no care structure to care for somebody that's not a well-functioning, well-adapted person. I mean, modern life is hard if you have any impairment at all.
Yeah, that's my nightmare scenario for Ben. You know, he's living under a bridge and subject to all the vicissitudes of life of people who live under bridges. So I'm still searching. I'm still searching for a cure or a remedy for autism. Biomedical research continues. There are some interesting leads. Meanwhile, my thinking has changed, and Ben enriches my life. I love him, and I've learned that if you enter into a relationship with a lonely or suffering person, you are changed. Now, I'm introducing this web series, Living with Autism. We're going to talk about, more specifically, some of the challenges that parents face and advocates face, and what can be done. So I want to refer you to that series.
Well, we're promoting that, and please look it up on YouTube, and I'm sure there's some other resources. If you know anybody or if you have a child with autism, how important it is to build a community and have a support group, and you've found support in the autism support groups that you've been involved with. And that really helps, because it is a lonely thing that a parent confronts when they have a special needs child.
That's true. Very true.
And of course, you've gotten a lot of value out of your association with Rotary. You're
Yes.
currently taking time out of your busy schedule to be president of Preston Hall Rotary and caring for others and getting out of the monotony of being on call with a special needs kid.
It's the next challenge, and a couple of the Rotary clubs in Dallas have already supported a little web series that we made. It's a fictional web series about some kids at a ranch for autistic kids. It's got, protagonist and antagonist. It's dramatic. I'm going to be using pieces of that in my series on living with autism.
Well, it's a challenge, and I admire you for your courage and perseverance to work through this and support your son and try to give him the best quality of life he can have. And, we don't live in a perfect world, and we don't live on heaven on earth. There's so much adversity and so much challenge and trial and disease and setbacks and troubles, and that'll lead some people to be skeptical about God. Why does God allow bad things to happen? But he obviously does. Bad things do happen, and we have to persevere through them. And,
A radio preacher at 6 o'clock in the morning, that's the first thing I turn to. It helps get me through the day.
Well, this is a little different than so many of my shows where I'm talking to somebody that's upbeat and has a path to success, because your path is one of trying to support and help your son and help him adapt as best he can, and encourage people to envision a solution for these kids as they grow older and their parents are no longer able to take care of them. Because I know that's on your mind. What happens when you're unable to care for men?
Yep. Well, I thank you for the opportunity to do that. And Matt, could we bring up that box again? Oh, I see it's already up. So that's a step.
Well, there's so much that we can do. I'm always advocating giving and helping other people. One thing that you can do, if you really have a lot of patience and the Holy Spirit is driving you to do something to really help somebody that's in desperate need, reach out to a parent with an autistic child or an autistic support group and get involved and enrich these poor kids' lives so that they can have a little sense of commonality and community. We all need more support, and we live in a lonely world in the best of times for the best of people. And for these autistic kids, they're really in a very closed loop thing that needs interaction with people. And if you're in school or you have a child that's in school, encourage them to reach out and love on these special need kids, because every person is God's child and really, has a path to take. And none of us know why bad things happen to good people and why adversity strikes, but we have to persevere through it and let God's love shine through us and love others. And even if they're not very returning the favor, like an autistic kid may not return the favor of your love towards them because they are really just struggling to cope with life. And so I'm really admire what you've done and your efforts to expand people's knowledge and get people thinking about it. And none of us know why autism has expanded like it has been. There's been some theories bandied around, controversies. I don't know. I'm a kind of a believer that electromagnetism has a large role in the world and in our lives, and that there's some possibility that children are being affected by electromagnetism or radio waves to disrupt them. But whatever it is, like you said, there's been a sharp ramp up in the instance of it, and I'm disappointed there's no explanation that is accepted by the scientific majority for why autism is on the rise.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier the half-truths that I was given when Ben was diagnosed. We might want to go back to those. Number one was autism is genetic, so it's just there. You can't. Well, no. There's a genetic component of autism, but there's also an environmental component of autism, and that's why you see this hockey stick rise about 1979, 1980, we think.
I thought it was advanced maternal age increased the instance of it too.
Well, you get a list of 12 or 20 possible causes, but no agreement. And it's probably
we did see a sharp rise in maternal age as women who delayed childbirth in the 60s and 70s started having kids at older ages, and I was guilty of that myself. My first child was born when I was 35, and my last children were born when I was in my early 40s, and their mother was older, and they've had issues. They don't have something as severe as autism, but they do have nonverbal learning disorder and have really struggled, whereas my older children that were born when we were younger have not been afflicted with learning issues and special needs. So I suspect some of it is this delay of childbearing until people are in their 30s instead of jumping out and doing God's work by having a family when you're in your 20s. And but
I don't speculate publicly anymore about cause because I can't do anything about it.
yeah,
What I can do is focus on the needs of autistic teens and young adults as they age out of school, and it's a growing population.
well, there's a lot to do in this holiday season. You know, please reach out and help an autistic family if you know somebody with autism. And as Dan said, there's so many more cases of it now that's very likely that someone in your community has trouble with this, and help them out, give them a break. I mean, yeah, the best case scenario would be to look after their kid while they go out and have a night out and
It would be helpful.
have a break. I mean, there's so much we can do. Go to Dan's YouTube, check it out, Living with Autism, and spread the news that we really need to love one another and let God's love shine for everyone. And I hope that this Thanksgiving season you will give thanks for all the blessings in your life. And no matter how bad your life is, God still loves you, and the promise of eternal salvation is there if you open your heart to the Holy Spirit and let it come in. And none of us know how God works with children that are afflicted with autism. Many of them are very peaceful and have very loving hearts. Others are afflicted with very disturbed mental conditions and have a hard time sharing love and giving a rewarding interaction. But as Dan can say, you can really get a lot of enrichment out of helping somebody who has great needs. And I hope that you will consider that, and also give thanks if you don't have a special needs child in your life, that your children are blessed with the joy of having all your mental faculties and blessings. I give thanks that my children are healthy and growing, and I have so much respect for Dan and his wife, who've cared for their son so loyally and in such depth over these years, because that really is a sign of living the Christian life, to sacrifice yourself and your own personal goals and needs for someone else. And especially if it doesn't necessarily give you a lot of positive feedback from that person. So good luck with it, and I hope that we can encourage more people to get involved, and encourage Congress to get involved and think about what are we going to do to house people and provide nurturing communities for all those with issues, and work on this incredible overburden of homelessness that we have in this country, where people that are functionally unable to live the modern life and hold down jobs are just cast off under bridges.
Thank you, David.
It's all good, and we're going to keep the prayers going. Please say a prayer today for the parents who have children with autism, to give them strength and nurturing, to help them grow in love and peace, and not get vindictive or get hostile, and give to help people, and let's get together with our legislation and do things. I know that there are so many causes out there, and of course I'm very passionate about helping the disadvantaged, and you can go to the Greater Dallas Coalition, which sponsors this broadcast, and is so much about helping the needy. And autistic kids are needy, and we have autistic kids that we serve in the South Dallas community, which have the double burden of a mental handicap and being financially underserved and underable to provide. So check us out. Come to one of our monthly coalition meetings and hear people doing inspiring good work, doing the Lord's work to help the needy. I am excited during this holiday season about the Christmas toy drives and the incredible acts of love and kindness that are coming out of our coalition members that are active members of the Greater Dallas Coalition. So when we think about things, let's give thanks for the good things in our lives, and let's go out and reach out and help those that are needy and have a really worshipful, happy Thanksgiving to celebrate the good news that God loves us and we are going to be able to overcome all these burdens and be restored to perfection in heaven with God and have a new and ever-ending eternal life, which is such a blessing compared to the sharp decline that comes in this modern life that we live. So have hope, have perseverance, and reach out and love your neighbor as yourself, which is the second greatest commandment and one of the mantras of my TV show. I am so inspired by Dan's love of his child and his drive to make life better for those in need. And I hope that you are too, and that you will do what you can to make everyone you come in contact's life just a little better by showing them love and respect and care, and never feeling smug and arrogant that I'm so lucky and they did something wrong, because it is luck that brings us to the blessings. None of us earn the joy that we have. Please go to Dan's YouTube channel and look at his series, Living with Autism. Dan has poured a lot of energy into communicating what it means to live with autism, and you can share this with people you know. If you know someone who has an autistic child or somebody who's affected slightly by autism themselves, please reach out and help us spread the good news and build awareness that will help move us as a society forward towards caring for the truly needy in our society and making sure that no one is cast aside or forced to live a homeless existence. Take care, and may God be with you during this holiday week, and may you have a blessed and happy Thanksgiving as we all give thanks for all the blessings that we have. Take care, and share my TV show with others, and let's spread the good news that the Holy Spirit offers us the peace that passes understanding if we only open our hearts to God and it. Take care, and I'll see you next week.